Okay, it's about time for us to get started. Thank you everyone for joining us with the live webinar with KAUST today. My name is Jenna and I'm with Doc City, and we're really excited to welcome our friends from KAUST to share all about the university with you and answer your questions. So I encourage you to keep writing in the chat box to let us know where you're coming from and if you know what program you're interested in at KAUST. That can help our presenters to tailor their message today. And also throughout the presentation, we'll be collecting your questions in the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. So write up your questions in the Q&A box at any time, and our presenters will answer those questions at the end of the presentation. And so at this point, I will hand the floor to Rosemary, one of our presenters from KAUST.
Thank you very much, Jenna. I'm just going to share my screen and hope that everybody can see that. So good evening, everybody. I'm really thrilled to talk to so many of you today on this webinar and to see so many of you from different parts of the world. It's really exciting. For the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to explain a little bit about KAUST and more details about the SEMC division, which is one of 3 academic divisions here at KAUST. I'm also joined by Morelio, who is a PhD student in the electrical and computer engineering program, and he will also have the floor for around 10 or 15 minutes. And after that, we'll have a live Q&A. So hopefully, if you have any further questions, we can have some good discussions about KAUST afterwards. So my name is Rosemary, and I am the Student Recruitment and Internship Specialist for the SEMC division. I'm not originally from Saudi Arabia. In fact, like around 1/3 of the people that live at KAUST, sorry, 2/3 of the people that live at KAUST, I'm an expatriate, and I'm originally from the UK, and I came to KAUST in 2014. I'm a very active person. I play a lot of golf. I like to cycle. I enjoy scuba diving. And one of the things that I really want you to take away from this presentation is that KAUST is an enabling place that really is full of opportunities and allows you to live a very enriching life. Of course, we have excellent science and technology, and we will explain a bit about that, but it's also a university which is full of opportunities. So let me start by telling you a little bit about KAUST. KAUST was a dream that was born from the late King Abdullah. Many, many years ago, Saudi Arabia was the home of science and technology. And in fact, a lot of scientific words originate from Arabic, algebra, for example. But over the years, this shifted to different parts of the world. And it was the late king's dream to reintroduce Saudi Arabia as a house of wisdom and to serve the local community of people within Saudi, but also the wider world, and work collaboratively across the world to meet sort of changing needs of the world today. So they say that KAUST was built in around 1,000 days, but in fact, KAUST is always changing, and I can show you here the map. This is the community area where most of our community members live, the student accommodation here, and this is the university campus. KAUST is located around 1 hour north of Jeddah, and Jeddah is the 2nd largest city in Saudi Arabia. Like any other city around the world, you'll find modern shops, modern malls, great restaurants, as well as historical points of interest. And KAUST is a really unique place because it combines that cultural history alongside very, very modern resources. So, for example, we have the Supercomputer located on the university campus that our students and our interns can have access to. So I'm just going to show you a very short video, which I hope will give you an overview about KAUST. So hopefully one of the things you can see from that video is that KAUST is really a small city. We're not just a university. We have on the campus many restaurants, lots of common restaurant names that you would know, places like Burger King and Domino's and Starbucks. We also have our own golf course and our own recreation facilities that students and internship students can use. And every student is guaranteed accommodation on the university campus, and the accommodation is free of charge as well. And I will cover that in just a moment. So KAUST is an international university. We have students from over 100 nationalities that study with us, and we're what's called a merit-based institution. So this means that we assess applications based on a number of factors, and based on your performance and how well you're doing, we will admit students based on that. It's a holistic approach to admissions. We are a graduate university, so we only do master's, PhD degrees, and a combined degree, which is called the Masters and PhD, which is where you complete your Masters on the way to the PhD. And English is the language of instruction. You don't need to speak Arabic. If you wanted to learn while you were on the campus, there are Arabic classes you can take. But every student that is admitted to KAUST has to have a minimum level of English, and everyday language communication is in English. But what is really unique about KAUST is that it's privately funded, and every student that's admitted comes on a full scholarship, and we call this the KAUST Fellowship. It doesn't matter where in the world you're from. If you apply to KAUST and you are admitted and you are successful, you will receive the fellowship. And this includes free tuition, so there are no tuition fees to pay when you study at KAUST. And you are also given an annual living allowance. So this is approximately $20,000 to $30,000 US a year, depending on whether you are studying for your master's or for your PhD. Every student, as I said, is given free housing. If you come to KAUST with your family, then there may be an additional cost to that. But the student themselves, if you're coming alone to live and work at KAUST, the accommodation is free. And every student also has medical and dental coverage. Actually, on the university campus, we have a KAUST health clinic. So if there was an emergency or you needed to speak to the dentist, there is people there that can help you. And I want to just say as well that when students or interns are admitted to KAUST, they are allocated a relocation advisor. And this is the person that will help you with your visa process. They will book your flights in order to come to the campus, and they will even facilitate your transportation to and from the airport. So you can be assured that if you are successful in getting admission to KAUST, they will look after you every step of the way. I also wanted to mention that we have a new, an additional scholarship, which is done in collaboration with the Science Council in Europe. So students who are of European nationality can also apply through, to the Al-Khwarizmi Fellowship. And this will be opening soon. And the application for that is on the 10th of December. And it means that you get an additional sum in your stipend. So KAUST is a fairly small university, but we are very elite and highly specialized. We have around 1,200 students who are currently studying with us, and around 80% of those are PhD. So this should give you an indication that we are a research-focused university. We have around 180 faculty. So for those of you that are quick with math, it's a ratio around 7:1 for the student to faculty ratio. And KAUST is really an academic community. So when you are living and working on the campus, you will interact with different faculty members. You will meet your fellow students. You will meet the research scientists all around the campus, in the shopping centers, in the cafes. So it's really a scientific community, which is one of the things which our students really love about being at KAUST. But even though we are a fairly small university and we are fairly young, last year we celebrated our 10th year anniversary, we have some really amazing statistics. And one of those is the QS World Ranking. We are #1 for 5 years in a row, including last year, 2020. For citations per faculty. And this is really an indication of the quality of the research that we're producing. And we also have a high number of highly cited researchers at KAUST. So this is an indication of the quality of the faculty that you're working with. Even though we are a fairly small university located in the Middle East, we have international partners all around the world. And a lot of our successful alumni and students make the most of those networks. For example, we have research collaborations in North America, in Asia, in Europe, and in South America as well. So what about the students, and who will you be joining if you come to KAUST? Well, for a University of Science and Technology, we are special in that we have a high number of female students. Around 35% of the student population are women, which for STEM subjects is really impressive. And as I said, most of our students are PhD students. Around 1/3 of our students come from the Kingdom, from Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the students come from different parts of the world. A high number from Europe, a high number from Asia, from North America and South America, and other areas around in the region as well. So far, we have graduated around 1,500 students. And many of those are now working in top companies or institutions around the world. So a lot of our alumni have done internships when they were students at KAUST in places like Google and Dow and Facebook, and then they were able to secure jobs with them when we leave. We have 100% employment or further study rate for our alumni, so we're very successful in the SEMC division for that. And for our MS graduates, so for the students that join us for a master's degree, if they don't stay at KAUST for their PhD, a lot of them do, but if they don't, they go on to other great universities around the world. So places like the University of Cambridge, Oxford and the EPFL. So lots of really good opportunities for alumni, both PhD alumni and also the master's alumni. So I just explained briefly the difference between the degrees that we have. For the master's degree, you need to have a bachelor program in an area which is related to what it is that you want to study. That means that if you are interested in applying for a master's degree in computer science, you should have a bachelor degree either in computer science or artificial intelligence or some sort of area which is related to that. For the PhD degree, most of our students are admitted, already have a master's degree. So it means that the level for the PhD is very high, of course, and there are some graduate courses that you have to take as part of the PhD. And most of the students that are admitted have already completed a higher degree before they apply for that. However, there are students who come straight from their bachelor degree and know that they want to do research at KAUST, and they know that 1 year is not really enough to do that, or 2 years, I should say. So they apply for what's called the MS PhD. The majority of our international students are either admitted to the PhD degree or the MS PhD degree. And this typically takes around 4 to 5 years to complete. And on the way to completing the PhD, you will be awarded the master's degree. But it's really good because it means you don't have to submit a new application for a PhD. You don't have to try and find an advisor. You're already accepted onto the program. So at KAUST, we have 3 academic divisions. The first is the BESI division, which is the Biological and Environmental Science and Engineering. And this covers areas like bioscience, marine science, plant science. We also have the division of Physical Sciences and Engineering, and they have 7 programs, including things like applied physics, earth science, petroleum engineering. But today we are here to discuss the SEMC division. And we have 4 academic programs which are affiliated with the SEMC program, and they are applied mathematics and computational science, computer science, electrical and computer engineering, and statistics. We also have what are called organizational research centers. And these research centers, the idea of them is really to drive research to new frontiers, which is only possible when you collectively bring together great minds from different disciplines. So, for example, in the Computational Biology Research Center, we have academics who are experts in biology and academics who are experts in computer science. And one of the things they've worked on is decoding the human genome, which can help identify predisposition to disease. And within the Extreme Computing Research Center, most of the work that faculty do is computational simulations for all sorts of scientific discoveries. For example, the supercomputer can help do things like climate modeling. It looks at big data and data science. And then within the VCC, which is the Visual Computing Research Center, this is, of course, a key enabling technology which can be used in a diverse range of applications, things like unmanned vehicles, entertainment, consumer technology, all sorts of interesting work happening there in the VCC. So as well as the labs that the faculty have, we have what are called core labs, and this is really part of the research infrastructure at KAUST. It doesn't matter which degree you are studying, every student has access to the core labs and can get training on those areas. Some of the ones which are particularly useful to the SEMC division are things like the nanofabrication lab, which obviously looks at things like micro and nanoscale devices. You can do things like etching, lithography, thin films, all in the nanofabrication lab. We have the workshops, which is where you can do 3D printing, you can do electrical work, woodwork, those kind of areas. And of course, the supercomputing core lab is home to the supercomputer, Shaheen, which is going to go through an update this year, which will make it again in the top 5 supercomputers in the world. And we also have the visualization, or the CAVE, which is, you know, the specializing in the visualization of all sorts of different data. So we have around 372 students in the SEMC division and over 60 core faculty. So I can't go through individually each faculty member. I have categorized them for you to see in the next few slides. And I will share the presentation with the students afterwards if you want to have access to these. But hopefully this will give you an indication of the kind of research which is happening in the division and which faculty may be interesting for you if you're looking at applying for a PhD. So within applied mathematics and computational science, we do things like numerical analysis and scientific computing. David Keys here is the Centre Director for the Extreme Computing Research Centre. And we also do things like different partial differential equations, any kind of PDE you can think of. We have faculty that are working in that area. We do things like applied probability, uncertainty quantification, applied geometry, and also mathematical modeling, which is very varied in the kind of modeling that we do. Anything from modeling the solar system and the stars to looking at different diseases and those kind of areas as well. So computer science is one of our larger programs at KAUST. Of course, because we have the supercomputer located here and lots of experts working in high performance computing, this is a clear research area that we do. We also do a lot of work in computational bioscience. For example, the computational bioscientists have just developed an interactive way to track and record the coronavirus. So it can look at things like the prevalence, the spread, how infectious the different strains are. So a lot of the work that is happening is applied and very cutting edge. It's really active. It's not research from kind of 100 years ago. Our newest area is the cybersecurity, and Paulo has just joined us from the University of Lisbon as the Centre Director. This centre is called RC3, and it looks at things like resilience computing and cybersecurity. This is the newest area that we have within computer science. So we are accepting applications for fall 2022 for students that want to come and work with these professors. Of course, we have visual computing and image processing. This is a huge group at KAUST because of the Visual Computing Research Centre. So lots of faculty working in this area, and Wolfgang Heidrich is the Centre Director for the VCC. And we do machine learning and AI. Our provost, who is one of the newly appointed pro-vice chancellors at KAUST, he is also an academic in AI and machine learning. We also do computer networks, cloud computing, big data, computer systems and databases, all within the CS area. I should say here that even though you would be applying for a degree in computer science, you would be working normally with one of these faculty in their labs, undertaking research and working on projects related to these kind of areas. So you don't apply for a degree in big data, you apply for the degree in computer science, and then later you will specialize in these areas. Within statistics, we do things like spatial temporal statistics, time series analysis, biostatistics, stochastic processes, and lots of areas like that. And as I was mentioning earlier, Marc Genton, who is a very well-known professor, has done a lot of work in mathematically describing changes in the brightness of stars, and this model can be applied to different phenomena such as climatology and solar irradiance as well. And finally, the ECE. I know we have a lot of people online from electrical and computer engineering. This doesn't include all of the areas. I've just tried to group together the faculty that are working on areas. Murillo is here from ECE, so he will hopefully be able to answer some more questions on this. But we have faculty who are working in things like electromagnetism and photonics, sorry, and also we do device and circuits. A lot of faculty working in sensors, some really interesting work recently happening in, for example, monitoring water quality in fish farms to prevent fish deaths. So this is helping to underpin food security. We have faculty in communications and networking, power systems, computer vision, robotics and control systems as well. So I can share these slides with you afterwards, because I know a lot of students find this really useful to see which faculty are actually working in their areas. But for now, I want to cover the admissions requirements. And this is really important because KAUST is a competitive university. So this means that we receive a lot more applications than we have for spaces. And so in order to give yourselves the best chance at gaining admission, you should really make sure you include as many of these components as possible. First of all, as I said, please make sure that your bachelor's degree or your master's degree is in a relevant field of study. Sometimes we've had applicants who have studied, for example, business technology or business management who are applying for statistics or for electrical and computer engineering. And you will really, these students are just competing against people that have years of knowledge and training in a relevant field. So it's really important that you have a relevant field of study. Saying that, if you are applying for something like electrical and computer engineering and you want to work in electromagnetism and photonics, you could apply with a background in physics, for example. So there are some areas which are related. As part of the application, you have to complete a statement of purpose. This should outline your motivations for wanting to study at KAUST, why your background is relevant, and you also need to have a CV. When you upload your CV, I would encourage everybody to check what the normal requirements are for a CV. Sometimes we see applications with 10-page CVs, and this is just not what a CV is. So make sure that you are familiar with the layout of a statement of purpose and a CV as well. You will need to provide your official university transcripts from all the institutions attended. This means that if you've studied a bachelor and a master's degree, you need to provide transcripts for both, and those should be in English, and they should outline the specific courses that you've taken and the grades of those. So when KAUST are assessing your application, they're going to look of course, at your grades and what we call the average GPA. I mean, there are students online now from all different parts of the world. You only need to state what your grade is in your original grade. So if, for example, you're from India and your grade is 70 out of 100, you just need to state what the grade is overall. But the faculty will be looking into the courses that you've taken, which courses you're performing well in, and which ones you're maybe struggling in. On average, the minimum grade that students have when they're admitted to KAUST is around 3.5 out of 4, although I would say that most of the students who are admitted have much higher grades than that. In terms of the English language, as I said, every student has to have proof of their English language unless they have done their undergraduate or their bachelor degree in the UK or in America or in Australia, or an English-speaking country like this. Otherwise, you have to have proof of your English language. One element which when I worked in the admissions office here, I saw overlooked a lot was the letters of recommendation. There seems to be some confusion about this. The people that are recommending you should really be able to comment on your suitability for the course and your academic preparedness. So having somebody like a mentor or somebody whose class you've taken would be a good person to have as your letter of recommendation. But using maybe a family member or a relative or a friend, it's just not going to have the kudos it needs to give the faculty the information that they want to know. We also encourage the GRE, which is the Graduate Record Exam. It's not compulsory, but it is strongly recommended, mainly because a lot of our faculty are coming from universities in the US. Either they have studied there themselves or they were teaching in universities in the US before they came to KAUST. So they are very familiar with what a good GRE score looks like. A lot of applicants for KAUST are also applying for other universities in the US. So you would have to take the GRE for those anyway. If you have a good grade, it's really worth including it on your application. And if you're applying for the PhD, please do put information in about your research experience. If you have done, for example, an internship in a lab, or you have written a thesis, or you have had a paper published, you should include that information in your application. If you are applying for the PhD or the MS PhD, you will need to have a sponsoring faculty. This is the person that accepts you into their research group. Now, there are two ways that you can approach this. You can either go directly to the faculty and see if they would be willing to sponsor you. And I would encourage you to be very careful about how you approach the faculty. Don't send generic emails. Make sure that you know, the email is targeted to the particular professor and that you include your CV and the information they might need. But the more common way of applying is to just include the names in the application. So there is a field in the application that will ask you to specify which faculty you want to work with. And then as part of the admissions process, your application will be forwarded to those faculty for them to review. And I want to say as well that KAUST is interview-based. This means that every student that is admitted has to go through a series of interviews. The first is the academic interview, which is where they will test your breadth and your knowledge of a particular field. And the second interview is what we call the KAUST interview, which is an administrative interview to make sure that you are a good fit for KAUST in terms of the environment and KAUST values and what we want to see in our applications. So I will let Maurizio also talk a little bit about this because I know he was an internship student with us. But I want to say that around 30 to 40% of students that are admitted to KAUST have visited or had some previous association with the division before. For example, we have summer schools in photonics, we have microelectronics camps, we have internship programs that last between 1 month and 6 months. And a lot of students will do that and then apply to their graduate studies with us. So I won't go into too much detail about the VSRP. Maurizio can also touch on this because he has some experience of it. But the VSRP is a very prestigious research program where you come to KAUST for around up to 6 months, and you undertake research with a particular faculty member. And this is a really great exposure for you to test the environment at KAUST, and also for the faculty to get to know you. When a faculty is investing in you for up to 5 years, you really want to make sure that that's a good choice of the person that you want to work with. So it's a really good opportunity to build a network there as well. And you have lots of benefits in terms of financial living allowance, but you also have access to core labs, to recreation facilities, and to all the same benefits that a current student would have. But of course, because of the recent COVID situation, we have changed slightly our internships, and now we do have an option for a virtual remote internship program as well. We've had around 50 students that have done remote internships with us. It's very flexible. You can work from between 1 month to 6 months. The process is slightly different. If you are applying for the VSRP, then you can go onto the university website, which is just here, and you can actually see the projects which are available that you can apply to directly. If you are thinking about applying for a remote internship, we in the division will be able to help match you with specific faculty to kind of help you. Not all faculty can take students remotely because the projects might be more lab-based, but the faculty that have projects which can be done remotely, we can help put you in touch with the right faculty there. And I want to say that it is free to submit an application to KAUST. It doesn't cost you anything to apply for the graduate application, and it doesn't cost you anything to apply for the VSRP. So if you are interested and you think you meet all of the requirements, you can go ahead and do that. And I'm just going to finish here because I think that I'm running over slightly, and I want to give Maurizio the chance to say something to you about his perspective, because he is a current student with us. So I will hand over to you, Maurizio, if you are ready.
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
I agree with everything you have presented. I also, is it the case to reply to questions and answer, or we'll do it later?
I think we can do that. Okay. I think we'll do that afterwards, yeah.
Okay, I will just share my screen. I have just prepared a couple of slides for this presentation. Hope everyone can see my screen. Can you?
Yeah, we can see it, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Maurizio Matrascia. I'm a PhD student at the Communication Theory Lab in KAUST. I'm working with Professors Lee Maluini. And so our field of study is mainly wireless networks. And yeah, I had different experiences in KAUST. First of all, I'm Italian. I was born here in Palermo, more or less like this. Then I lived my entire life in my hometown. So if many of you have done the same, like, don't worry, KAUST is a great place to do this transition. Even if you're not used to live abroad, maybe it can be easier than other places because you are very well supported. So I got my bachelor degree in energy engineering in 2017 in my hometown university of Palermo. And then I studied right away the master degree in electrical engineering. And I once hold high school classmate of mine told me about KAUST, I decided to apply for a VSRP, so Visiting Students Research Project, and I used it I think in a very effective way, because this was both visiting research experience, a job in a certain way because you get paid, but I also used it as a master thesis and as a academic internship. So I think I took all from it, and it was a very good opportunity because I could experience the life in KAUST. I could understand if this was the place where I wanted to spend such a long period of studies like PhD. And that's what I did. In fact, after graduating, again, I went back home for graduation, and then I applied right away to the PhD program. So one important thing, because I've read in the questions, I was able to do this even before graduating. So I presented my application before graduation, and I was actually already accepted even before the graduating for masters. Of course, there was like a condition. I had to get the master before joining for PhD, but assuming that, I was already accepted. So that's a very good option that I'm not sure all universities offer. So what made me choose KAUST? Like I considered mainly these aspects. So as a priority, I consider the quality of work, because that's the main thing you're going to do here. You're coming for personal development, but also professional development. And for this, I just looked around, like talked with some colleagues, and just went on Google Scholar or other websites like IEEE for my field, and tried to understand what was the relevance of the faculties here, the research centers, and it was very good. Then I took into account both the environment, because you have to live here, so you have to like the climate, for instance. You have to like the nature surrounding KAUST. You have to like the community, which is very international. As we said, it's full of different cultures, different point of view. You can have friends from any part of the world, learn different things from anyone. Also, like even with your own connationals, like people coming from the same country as you do, like you actually share maybe more than you're used to share when you are in your country. Then I also considered the services and the financial support. So KAUST offers a lot of facilities, both for working, but also for recreation. This, for instance, the island pool, but there's pretty much everything, like golf field, there's soccer fields, there's 3 gyms, there are a lot of facilities also, like for medical support, which are most of the features are also included in the insurance, and also the stipend is something you should take into account. Then I also had the chance to have great feedback from my peers, my friends, especially the one I told you, like introduced me to KAUST. And finally, I also had very good expectations about this university. So one thing is, I did the VSRP, and I was able to understand how KAUST is now, but I also considered the potential it has for like the next few years. So because you start PhD maybe, or master PhD now, and then you will you will finish like in 5 years or 4 years. So by that time things might be different, and like my bet was that KAUST would have been even more important in the next few years, because it has been growing during the last years so far. And another important thing, as I said, like you have to live in KAUST. It's a very great place. Like if you want to keep your passions ongoing, so you want to cultivate your passions. For me, for instance, I have passion for music, and really I had many chances to perform live, which was something not that easy in my home country. And like I had the chance to play with other friends or other musicians. I'm not here in the orchestra because it's not really my thing, but like a lot of musicians like to play in the orchestra, and there is a great stage, great auditorium for them. And so, I mean, this is just one specific hobby I have, but really pretty much anything you like to do, you will be able to do it here. Like there's people who have the hobby of diving, people who like camping in the desert, people who like sports, and as I said, there's pretty much anything. So really, like, there's a lot of also volunteering activities. Like for instance, I'm doing this summer, I will be a volunteer for, or as orientation leader for, you know, introducing new students to KAUST. So really, there's a lot of things you can do, and it's a great experience. It's like a small community, but gives you a lot of opportunities, and a lot of you know, heterogeneity within the community helps to do different things that you find only in very far places apart from here. And just to give you an overview also how does it work here. So for my visiting project, I was working in the core labs with Professor Mohammed Hussein. So I was doing nanofabrication, and that's a great environment also because core labs have a lot of people from the staff that help you like daily, whatever process you have to run, or you have to use some machines, they train you, they follow you, they support you. But for my PhD, I really felt like I was more inclined to computational work. So then I decided to change, and now I'm working on something a bit more abstract. Like I'm doing some projects which belong to the area of global connectivity. So this vision for sixth generation of mobile communication systems, we are one of the main goals is actually to let connectivity embrace the entire world. So one of the projects I did, the main one I did so far, was about bringing connectivities to rural areas with novel network architectures. And for instance, we are considering drones or other types of unmanned aerial vehicles, which can be, for instance, airships or tethered balloons. And so the work we do here is like, we start from, of course, reading some literature, understanding the problem, creating an idea for our model, and then we start to develop it from scratch, maybe taking inspiration from other papers, but then deriving our own expressions with our own notation, our own simulation software, and so on. So for instance, here I'm considering a specific simulation setup, which looks a bit easy, but it's something actually that hasn't been done in literature first. And even easy, like simple models are easy in reality, but when you try to describe them by mathematical equations, then you end up with very complicated expressions. And so here, for instance, we are considering distribution of terrestrial base stations, like cell towers, which is more dense close to the town center, and it gets lower when you get far away to the rural areas. And we are also deploying some drones starting from a certain distance from the town center, and we are evaluating what is the probability that a generic user located anywhere in this environment would be under a good, would experience a good service or not for telecommunication. And so we did some geometrical considerations, and also like we applied some stochastic distributions, and we end up with a very nice work which has been published already. And we ended up like we provide insightful results where, you know, based on the density of these drones, you can understand how much improvement you will have in terms of probability of getting covered by a good signal, depending on the distance from the town center. So this is just an example. Another project we are working on is both for a magazine paper and a technical paper, is for post-disaster communications. So assuming like there is an earthquake, a terrorist attack or something like that, like you can apply the same concept like deploying aerial vehicles that can provide connectivity to those areas. And we were already submitted a magazine paper for this, and also we are currently working on a technical paper. And a great thing I'm experiencing is like my professor, as well as many others, actually support you, like promote you, and propose you very interesting opportunities like to advertise your work. For instance, there are some poster competitions, some you know, some conferences which you won't be able to access, or you won't easily find without a good supervisor that is more into this field of study. So that's why like it's good that you work on something, then you probably publish the paper, but you also have a good opportunities to give it visibility. And this is, for instance, one competition from IIT I'm planning to apply for, but also I already applied for this IEEE SASTEC 2021 poster competition, and I was able to get a second place prize, also thanks to a documentary video that my professor proposed me to develop, and we actually hired a company to make this happen easily. Here, for instance, we are also working on a magazine paper. So I will just show you this video to give you an idea of like the kind of support you can get. Okay, yeah, that was it. So yeah, I'm done with the presentation. I'm looking forward for any question I can answer, or Rosemary can answer as well.
Thank you, Marilio.
Great. Yeah, well, thank you, Rosemary, and thank you, Marilio. We have a number of questions from our participants today. So we will transition into the question and answer portion. We have a lot of questions, so we'll do our best to get through them in our last few minutes. But if you do have additional questions you'd like to submit, you can send those to the Q&A box. And so the first question that came up a few times from some students was, if they are still pursuing a degree, can they apply before they've finished that degree? I think was the common theme around those questions. And also, where do transcripts fall into that?
Yeah, that's great, Jenna, because I picked up on that as well, that there seems to be a bit of confusion because I said that you should have your bachelor degree in a relevant field. It doesn't mean that you actually need to have completed your bachelor degree in order to apply. You can apply with transcripts that are maybe unofficial. Of course, the majority of our students apply whilst they are still undergraduates or graduate students. All that happens is that eventually you will need to provide proof of the final graduation certificate and the final transcript. But you can go ahead and apply with the transcripts that you have. You don't have to have completed a bachelor degree.
Great. Thank you, Rosemary. Thanks for clearing that up. We also had a few students asking about recommendation letters, if a senior lecturer can write that for them. I think was a question that came up twice. Who should the recommendation letters come from?
Yeah, I mean, a senior lecturer who knows you and knows the work that you do is a really good choice for a letter of recommendation. You need to have 3 letters of recommendation, so don't use the same professor 3 times. You can go to other professors, or if you've been working in a lab or you have some experience, research experience, you can also go to those people. But normally a senior lecturer or somebody that knows you is a good choice.
Great, thank you. There was a question about English proficiency. Is the IELTS test or the TOEFL test compulsory for the PhD or any program? And I believe someone also asked if they studied a degree in English. Does that count? Can you touch on that, Rosemary?
Yeah, sure. In terms of the English language requirement, everybody has to have some proof of their English language. If you have studied your bachelor degree or your master's degree in, for example, the US, in Canada, in the UK, in Ireland, Australia, or New Zealand, then you don't need to provide proof of your English skills. But if you have not studied your undergraduate degree or your master's degree in one of those countries, you will need to provide proof of your English, either through a TOEFL or through an IELTS exam. They are valid for 2 years, so you can apply to KAUST even without having the score, but eventually you will need to provide it. So on the application, it will give you the option to either submit the score that you have and the date that it was taken, or the date that you intend to take the test, and either of those are fine to submit the application.
Great, thank you, Rosemary. We had a question about the monthly stipend. What is the monthly stipend in the PhD program in electrical engineering, or if you can speak to that generally?
I think let Marilio answer that. He's a student in ECE, so he can,
yeah.
he can help you with that.
As far as I know, the stipend is the same for any degree, like there's no difference. Like the first year, I think there it's a bit reduced. Like it's still very good stipend. Don't get me wrong, but it's 7,800 rial, I guess, and so which is how much is that? It's roughly $2,000 more or less. And then, but after the first year, actually, there's an increase in that. So it gets up to 9,300 rial, more or less. And that's $2,300, I guess, more or less, something like that.
Yeah, if I can just add to that, I believe it's linked to the qualifying exam. So when you have taken your PhD qualifying exam and you have passed that, then I believe your stipend does increase. But either way, every student, whether you're a PhD student or a master's student, you do receive a stipend, which is to support you financially while you're living and studying at KAUST.
So, no, I think for my experience, it was after 1 year.
After
not after the qualifying exam.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah.
Great, thank you. There was a question about, can they switch their academic field after they've started at the university? If they get accepted in one field and then they change their mind later on, is that possible?
Actually, in some cases, it is possible, especially for the master's students. Maybe if they want to switch across, if they have the right background and they pass the academic the qualifying exams, then it's fine to switch. In terms of switching between faculty, some, for your PhD, it has happened before, but I wouldn't say it's common practice. We would just really encourage you to do your research up front about who you want to study with, what research you want to do, and make an informed decision early on. But of course, it happens sometimes. People find that they're a better fit in other groups, and that kind of happens. But it's not the best practice.
Yeah, there's also like an intermediate way. Sometimes like maybe you figure out you want to do something different, but you also like your current work. There's still opportunity for collaborations with different groups. It's something like in between to avoid complicated like moving from a faculty to another. Sometimes it might be a bit complicated. So in that case, it's a good option if you can do that.
Great, thank you. And I know we're about at the top of the hour now, and we do have a number of questions we did not have time to answer. Rosemary and Murillo, did you have any questions you saw on the Q&A box that you wanted to take a stab at in our last minute here?
I can't remember. I just wanted to clear up something about the start dates, because there was a few questions about that. The next applications to be open will be for fall 2022. There are 2 start dates. There's the spring and there's the fall. And for PhD students, they can start in either spring or fall. But for MS students, they can only start in the fall. So I just want to clear that up, that if you're interested in applying for MS PhD or for MS, you should be looking at the fall. And if you are looking at PhD, you can apply either for the spring or for the fall.
Yeah, maybe we can also say something very quickly about, like, I know there are some students, they are not just under one faculty supervision, but with 2 faculties. I'm not really expert in that, but maybe like we can mention something about it. It's also
that's true. We have students who have co-advisors, both in KAUST, right? They maybe have 2 advisors at KAUST who are working on a multidisciplinary project, or they also have co-advisors maybe in another university around the world. So this has also been known through a Computational agreement for students to kind of work in both institutions. It's not well, I would say, yeah, there are a lot of students that do that. If you have a particular kind of research topic in your mind that you want to work on, it can be discussed as part of the interview process, how they can fit you with more than one advisor.
Great, fantastic. Well, I believe that's all the time we have. For all of our participants today, Doc City will be sharing a recording of this webinar with you if there is anything that you missed. And we encourage you to get in touch with KAUST to ask any questions that you didn't get answered today. And so thank you all for joining us today. I want to thank Rosemary and Murillo from KAUST for joining us as well. And is there anything else you all wanted to share before we close out for the evening?
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, I'm available for any question, but also like sometimes some students contact me about specific questions about specific research groups I'm not in. So regarding that, don't worry, like I'm available, but also like if you want to contact some students from a specific group, I think most of the people are the same. Like I personally know, because I contacted many students before applying. So just go to the KAUST website, the research group you are interested in. You will find all the people working there, and they are very, very friendly. You can email them, and then they will most probably help you in whatever you're looking for.
Thank you, Maurizio. The students will appreciate that. And I just want to say, Jenna, thank you for organising and for everybody coming today. It was great to see so many people online. So I hope it was useful. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
Nice.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.